Today in the crypto space, we're seeing a little bit of strength. Bitcoin right around $116,500, only up approximately 1%. Ethereum still hovering around the $4,500 level, holding steady is pretty good for me. While the rest of the altcoins, some of them doing pretty good. OP getting a nice bounce. We got Filecoin doing great. Dog with Pap doing awesome. XMR, Monero, waking up for a bit of a pump. In today's video, I want to talk about the general market. I want to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator. But more importantly, guys, I want to talk about one project, a DEX, a Solana DEX, the main Solana DEX, Raydium. So you know what? Let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins. Looking for opportunity, whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market so that we can capitalize on any of the volatility. And if you appreciate the strategy, subscribe to the channel, click the bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the live streams at 8 p.m. EST, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you have any projects you want me to cover here on the channel, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. You can hit me up on the socials. The links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. All right, guys, let's begin. Let's see what's going on here, because we do see a bit of a wake-up call here for Bitcoin. It has been range bound, planking sideways for a bit. And at the current moment, we're seeing a bit of that pressure pushing against that, that floor price. Ultimately, if we can start pumping and breaking through, we can most likely see Bitcoin start moving to the upside. Guys, seeing Bitcoin at $116,500 in a bullish stance is not bad, it's particularly on the lower time frames. We could start on the lower time frames, showing that strength, that bullishness, and then continue into higher time frames. Okay, so let's pay attention to Bitcoin in the next little while. Ethereum still on a slight downtrend, not really doing much, as you can see. And unfortunately, a lot of people are losing a little bit of their patience as Ethereum is coming down, because it usually means like indecision for alts as well. Some altcoins are taking full advantage of Ethereum, kind of doing nothing. We see, a bit of a pumpage on a BNB, guys. This thing keeps on going. It has no chill, up 3.8% today. Pretty good. Man of the match, as we see. Solana, getting a bit of a bottom here, perhaps. And it does look like an XRP scenario where it kind of retraced and maybe holding a bottom, maybe looking for a response. It is up 2%, which is not bad, in comparison to 3.8 for BNB. It's right behind it. It's not like it's in the negative or anything. And the rest of the space is either positive, a couple percents in the green, or very neutral. As you can see, there's not much red, and if they are red, it's practically zero, if anything, right? We got Sui waking up a little bit, guys. You know what I've been saying about Sui, calm before the storm type of scenario. I believe that it's time for it to wake up, catch up to some of the other alts like AVAX. AVAX has been doing great, guys. It's 15.4% to the upside. In fact, we're celebrating a 4.3% pump today, but it's not even a pump because it's still within range. Let it break out, and then we'll continue to the upside for a massive expansion. That's when we'll celebrate. So 4.3% is great, no doubt. We love all the green, but if it's still within range, the party is, still yet to come. We got to get that breakout, and then we get the bigger moves, right? So we got to be patient. While you're in a range, you got to be very, very patient. Choppy price action is tough, okay? So we just got to wait it out and see what happens here. A lot of retracements still, even though the market is fairly neutral today. We're still in a very retractive mode, as you can see. Even like H-bar, it's up 1.6%, but it's still in a bit of a downtrend, maybe looking for a reversal. So many projects right now are looking like they want to get a short-term reversal to the upside on the 1 hour. And that's totally fine because the daily's still bullish, which means that, the 1 hour could reverse. The bullishness could permeate through the 4 hour, the 6 hour, and eventually we can get that continuation to the upside on the daily, which is awesome. That's what we want, right, guys? So, pretty good. The market's not bad today. It could be better, obviously. Monero is probably one of the bigger gainers. It's up 6%, which is awesome. We got Bitget token getting a nice move. What else do we got? Any random anomalies? Any structures? Near protocol looks all right. It's up 4%, but it's still on a downtrend. It's trying to make its pivot point bottom, which is nice to see. At least a bit of a reversal here on the 1 hour would definitely bring us to higher levels. Pump.fun is still doing good, up 77.5% in 7 days, guys. I wouldn't touch it at the current moment. There's a lot of hype regarding the live streaming features and all of this kind of stuff. It's a mixed bag of feelings at the current moment, even for myself. Guys, we'll discuss it tonight. Pump.fun has a bittersweet scenario. You kind of like it, but you kind of don't at the same time. A lot could be said there. There's always an argument for both sides of the fence on why you may not like it and why you may like it. However, Pump.fun is doing its thing, and so far it's pulling through, it's following through, and ultimately look at the price. So all good. We celebrate all the pumps regardless of what it is. Ultimately, if you were able to make some gains here, congratulations. That's how it goes. We got, Matic I'm not interested, guys. In Matic, I'm so glad that I faded Matic. I didn't really care about Matic and what they're doing, and all the L1s for that matter. They might get a bit of a catch up later, but really, I'm not really a big fan on L2s. So I'm scaling in very lightly and within the narrative, no doubt. Caspa doing pretty good, and many others doing pretty good. Punchy Penguins getting a bit of a bounce, V recovery on Render. That's not bad. We got Bonk waking up. Filecoin, guys, the OG of, the decentralized storage. Waking up, good partnership. I'm drawing a blank right now. I don't remember who it partnered with, but it partnered with somebody epic. I think it was AVAX, if I'm not mistaken. It's an AVAX partnership, so that's not bad. Don't quote me on that one, but I think it is. Ultimately doing great to see, Filecoin. It's proven itself to be, high quality and has the longevity to back it. So good stuff there to see Filecoin finally waking up. And that's about it, guys. The market in general. OP doing good. 5%. That's not bad. We'll take OP. Out of all the L2s, I kind of like OP. If I were to choose, it would be OP. But again, I'm not even that bullish on the entire narrative altogether. All right, guys, let's take a look at some of this. Let's take a look at Raydium. At the end of the day, it's all about Solana. What is Solana up to? And we got to take a look at, ultimately, these opportunities. And not only do we look at the L1, but we also look at, all the other plays that are within their ecosystem. So in this case, we're looking at the beta plays, we're looking at proxy plays, we're looking at, in this case, DeFi. Right, DeFi usually is one of the narratives to pick up first as the ecosystem grows. We get transactional volume, we get market participation, we get on-chain participation, which ultimately is what we should be bullish on if you're a true crypto, enthusiast. The value of transacting on-chain. So Raydium being the main DEX for Solana is usually the first stop that you should take. The main DEX on all L1s is the first stop that you should take to diversify within the ecosystem. So Raydium is where it's at right now. You can see its market cap is at about $875 million market cap. So we're getting down on the market cap. Guys, I started at the large caps and I'm slowly making my way down, covering all the main projects that a lot of people are buzzing about. There are some in between that I choose not to talk about, given that it's not really picking up too much attention. But Raydium, guys, if you're bullish on Solana, you got to understand, you got to be bullish on Raydium. Right, and even at DEX aggregators is not the reality. Is a lot of those DEX aggregators they will run through Raydium regardless. Okay, so Raydium is going to get the transactional volume whether we like it or not at this stage. So Raydium being the main DEX, and being a fairly large cap for a DEX, and talking about Solana that has tons of transactional volume, might be a good one. So you can see that the max supply and the total supply and the circulating supply. So circulating supply and total supply and max supply. There's a bit of a, it's about 50% in distribution. Let's see if we hover over this. It doesn't say, but percentage-wise, we'll eyeball that. It's about 50%, which means that there's still tokens to be released. There's still tokens that need to hit the market. They're either behind a vesting schedule, a reward system of sorts, and ultimately we're going to see how these tokens and over time how they're going to dilute the actual value of Raydium. Now, again, it's part of the development team to create tokenomics that don't put that sell pressure too hot. It's going to come out. They're going to come out slowly. The reality is eventually by next cycle, this thing will be fully diluted. And then that's an opportunity to understand that tokenomics are no longer against us. But at the current moment, they are. But in a bull run, who cares? If you've been here in previous cycles, you know that the reality is unlocks and distribution of tokens. Nobody cares. Everything pumps, everybody's buying, they get absorbed real quick. So if Solana is going to be, a major player here in this space, which it looks like it is, we got so much bullishness happening for so. Raydium should be on your watch list and it should be part of your Solana portfolio. Okay, guys, so keep that in mind. Let's see what they got going on socials. Raydium protocol. We got an on-chain order book, AMM powering the evolution of DeFi. Pretty epic right there. So pretty cool. Project Wings USD1 rewards. Okay. So we got USD1 being there to start. Millions of USD1 rewards are up for grabs in September. So they're going to be introducing Trump stablecoin USD1, which is pretty good. Pretty interesting to see that integration. Just coin it on Solana. Okay, that's the one. And then we got portals. We got something else. Soul liquidity pool is live on Raydium. Okay, portals. Okay, doing its thing. Can I get a GM? Good morning to everybody. High quality projects. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Solana accelerate stablecoin adoption on Solana. So we're getting a bit of that. Project Swings bringing rewards for to the trenches. Again, it's a lot about this USD1. That's what they got going on in here. So it looks like it's the major announcement, the major news, the major catalyst at the current moment for Solana. And a lot of some people, are talking negatively about Solana, that, and positively, of course, that Solana, has a lot of these meme coins and toxic projects, pumped up fund, this and this and that. The reality is, okay, there's two aspects to this. At the end of the day, gains are gains, pumps are pumps, right? We're going to celebrate all of them. We can't hate on them. Pumps are great for everybody, right? Ultimately. But the toxicity that, does lie within the Solana ecosystem, given the meme coins and all of this, it's not a good thing, obviously. However, how does this relate to Solana specifically as an open source platform? Most people don't really realize that Solana, when they created it, they didn't sign up to be the major meme coin player. Right? They didn't say, you know what, I want to have all the degenerates of this community, this crypto community, come and create meme coins and engage in degeneracy. They didn't sign up for that. We signed up for it. They didn't. But ultimately, it's we who signed up for it and are interacting with it and appreciate it. And that's why, there's a space for it. It's a home for it because they were in the right place at the right time, offering the right technology to host the degenerates. And here we are, trading meme coins and pumped up funding all over the place, which is, our decision, not Solana's particularly. So this is something that we have to understand. Is Solana benefiting from it? Of course it is, for many reasons, right? They get to test their transactional volume, crazy amount of volume coming in. You guys remember during the meme coin phase, how much volume was coming in. So there's a lot to be said here, but it's not Solana's fault. Its branding shouldn't be tarnished by all the scams and rug pulls that, Pumped Up Fund. Pumped Up Fund should be the one that, might get a bit of that negativity. But even them, they're a decentralized protocol, aren't they not? Right? So we have a lot to think about here with regards to that culture and how that affects the technology, the decentralized technology that houses it. All right, guys. So that's an interesting conversation. Guys, join the live stream tonight. We'll talk a bit more if you guys are interested. We talk about all kinds of different projects and narratives, ideas and thesis and all kinds of stuff. All right, guys, let's talk about some charts. Let's take a look at what's going on here with the Solana chart, because ultimately Solana, whether you like it or not, it's been doing great. Ultimately from its chart here, Raydium ultimately has been doing great, following Solana's narrative, Solana's, pumpamentals. And as an L1, it's definitely carrying its ecosystem to the upside. So Raydium is definitely going to have a bit of that strength going alongside Solana and the rest of what's happening on Solana. All right, guys, let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. So really what we have to understand is, basically structure right now is a little bit difficult, because we did get some great support at the horizontals at about $1 in 45 cents or so, and that's pretty good, guys. We have to understand that we identified these areas really early, and we were prepared, and these areas were points of interest of mine, and you can see they gotten respected to the point that I was able to double down to the accumulation phase right here in the yellow box. That's yellow boxes on my charts mean accumulation. If it came down there, we would accumulate. And guess what, guys? We did tag in there, and we did hover around this area at the point of interest for a good while. If you DCA'd right into this area, either here and you pumped and you came back down, you run tripped it, okay, fine. If you're not, you took profit, so even better. Right? But regardless, if you have, bought right into this general area, right, or even in the past, like down here, right, you're doing well, right? Ultimately, if you bought the tops, you're in trouble. Obviously, you're feeling the heat. Now, that's something that we got to consider, because at the current moment, the majority of this saltiness that exists is still salty, and the emotions are still there. which means that we have to think about, if the price gets back to this general area, how many of those market participants, they're not many, let's be real about that, there's not many people there, look at this volume, right? How many of those participants are likely to sell? There are going to be some, right? Let's say it's 50%, let's say it's only 30%, there's going to be sell pressure, right? There's going to be volatility, there's going to be some, right? To say that there's going to be none, it may not be the smartest thing, right? It's all a game of probability. There's a probability that we get some. Now, is there going to be enough strength to actually blast right through it? It's possible. I'll be honest. It's possible. We could come down for a dip. We'll talk about the bearish case scenario in the short term. But we can come down and pick up bullish bids and then totally rocket right through it, given that there's not much participation. So really, I don't feel like this general area, this order block here, is that important. I think that it might be quite negligible. If anything, we might just have to show a bit of patience into this zone, and that's totally fine. And exchange of hands at potential levels of resistance, previous tops and, all this kind of stuff, it should be expected. Now, the more important thing is, what do we do now? No, we look at the history, we look at the history, we look at the current, and then we start to say to ourselves, okay, based on history and based on where we're at right now, what do we do? The problem is that from the bearish thesis, let's talk about the bearish thesis, because the bearish thesis will make sure that we don't miss out on opportunity, okay? If you look at the bearish thesis, the impulsive move was there and it was strong, okay? And then going on from there, the bearish thesis would be, okay, I'm looking for a continuation, no? Right? In order to see a continuation, usually what we see is a market structure that looks like a retracement. And I hate to say it, but this looks like an ABC retracement, right? So we're still in our bearish thesis. Based on that idea and the impulse that, was created here, we should go for another impulsive move down. That's very possible, because this right here is not a reversal structure. This is just a retracement. A reversal structure usually is a little bit more complex, and we see pivots. Pivots in the price, pivots in the momentum, pivots in the price action. This is not, I don't see major pivots happening here. In fact, right here, I see a little bit of weakness. It could be that we do roll over here and come down. We're going to have to jump onto the lower time frames to really get that accurate, obviously, to come up with the setup there on this fractal right here. But before we do that, I just want to quickly look at the oscillators. Guys, by the way, if you want to know more about these oscillators, they're called Synergy Signal. Links are in the description below. And if you start looking at what's really been happening, like even right here, just put that horizontal, that diagonal in quickly, and you start looking at this diagonal right here. There's clear Class A bearish divergence happening here on the daily, on this wing of the price action. It's not something that I'm proud of. It's not something that I'm interested in, for sure. We also have this kind of looking a bit slumpy. We got to be honest here, right? EMA is facing down, a few red histogram bars. This is definitely on a downtrend. Look at this bullish response here on the expansion. That expansion looks fairly weak. I'm not really that interested. I'm not that crazy about it, right? So let's move on. We got a bit more bearishness there, and we're building our thesis. This is what we're doing. So we got bearish divergences and all of that. Now, I would have loved to see momentum in an uptrend, but unfortunately, as we are seeing this, we're just now hoping that we hold support in the chop zone and go for another overbought move. That happens, that could happen. And the reason why is because we are in a bull run and we are in the beginnings of a potential altcoin season. Just keep in mind that other altcoins, other Solana-based projects, like even Drift today is up 10%. Solana is holding up very nicely and doing very well lately. Raydium is not catching any bids. What is the reason, right? So we see a nice recovery here. We see some sort of consolidation, right? Some may argue, okay, Mike, this is a nice cup and handle. We're just waiting for a breakout out of this area. And I do see that that's very possible, no doubt. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind, right? So we're still with the bearish thesis. The bearish thesis says that if we start breaking below here, I'll be honest, if we start breaking below there, let me reuse this white line right here, because this broke out already. Okay, if we break below this white line, guys, we're going to be coming down. And it's not going to be looking good. It's likely that we come down, hunt liquidity at this bottom. Okay, and that bottom might translate even to another bottom. As long as we don't break below here, actually, the reality is as long as we don't break below here, $1.37. But we still have this bottom and this bottom. This is trendline liquidity that is being built here. So let's just keep in mind there's bearish divergence, okay? So we can get rid of the oscillators and we can expand this to take a look at it more and bigger. And expand this a little bit more. Like, we do see that is a bit of an uptrend, no doubt. Trendline liquidity could mean that we do come down and sweep these bottoms, this bottom, and even that bottom. The problem is that the bearish response, like I mentioned, impulsive move, retractive move, impulsive move. On the next impulsive move to the downside, if the bears want to go for the shot and take that shot to the downside, are they going to have enough strength to actually maintain a sustainable pump with volume to break down and break through all of this? And I would say this, based on market conditions, based on where we're at right now, based on everything, Bitcoin dominance, others, and all of the sentiment behind crypto at the current moment, it's very likely that it turns into a swing failure that shakes a lot of people out. What I mean by that is, we could come down, even create another higher low, sweep here or here, and not fall below here, and kind of slowly nestle into this, volume that's quite significant at the point of control, and perhaps start getting some signals of a reversal. Now, I'm not going to say that that's going to be the reversal point, but what I'm going to say is that if it does happen where we start breaking down from here, breaking below this white line that I just put in, guys, we have to pay attention to the next levels of liquidity, which really the majority of it is right onto this level. So we have to be patient. If it starts to dip, yeah, shorts will be in your favor, particularly if a backtest confirmation at a lower low and we start in a downtrend. This would probably be shorts if that's what you're interested in, no doubt. But ultimately, a bounce right here would be awesome, and to get that evidence of a change of character on the lower time frames. Okay, so that's that. Now, what we have to talk about is the bullish case scenario in addition, because we're not below the white line yet. And that's your invalidation of the bullish thesis. Because if we break below, that gets bearish. If we stay above, structure is still supported. And given that, it does look like, some sort of cup and handle type of scenario, right, where we're consolidating right here. And then if we start breaking to the upside, guys, it's very likely that we start expanding quite aggressively, as long as we don't start breaking down now. That is the biggest issue. Could there be a little bit of suppression here on the price, market manipulation to suppress the price? It could be very possible, given that, we have other Solana projects doing great, right? And Raydium here as the DEX is kind of doing nothing, right? It's kind of like, what's going on here, right, with Raydium? But that's the scenario, guys. Where else are you going to take the chance? That's the thing. Now, if you build a position here, you put your stop loss here, risk to reward ratio is perfect. Even on a lower time frame, even if you said, you know what, if we get the price back up here, I will take profit. Guys, risk to reward ratio is in your favor. Let's jump to the 6 hour for a second. You can see that, right? It's in your favor. Go long right into this level, put a stop loss, give yourself a bit of wiggle room, consider this little imbalance so you don't want to get shaken out there, and then boom, it starts to move up. You take a little bit off the top, trail up the stop loss, and if it goes higher, you trail up the stop loss, take more off the top, and start protecting the gains. This looks like a potential bull flag to the upside. We're starting to get bullish here. We're starting to realize that the white line that I put in has some value, right? It's not just bearishness all the time. The reality is this is still in an uptrend, and this could be a continuation to the upside on the 6 hour and on the 4 hour that could translate into a bigger breakout above this level that does look like that cup and handle scenario that I'm talking about, right? So this is how we build a thesis. The bearish thesis is there. It's very clear. And so is the bullish. Now what we have to do is take a look at oscillators on the 6 hour. Can we catch an edge? It's still kind of slumpy. I'm not really catching any edge. I don't like this. EMAs are facing down with red histogram bars. We may need a couple of days to kind of reverse into this level to kind of get some bullishness action happening. But in the meantime, guys, it's very patient. I don't catch an edge here on the 6 hour either. I see a bullish response coming in hot any moment now, but we got to be patient because it's that transition right into here, that bearish to bullish, that kind of shakes people out and makes people, pay a little bit of a price. So be patient here, but ultimately you're buying a great risk to reward ratio opportunity at this horizontal with a decent invalidation. Now, before we move on, I just want to show you one last thing because it's super important to understand that the big picture does matter, guys. Because we're nickeling and diming for an entry here for a couple of cents. I just want you to be very clear. We're talking about $3.26, and we're talking about down here $2. So a bit of a dollar difference. I understand that's significant enough. But let's zoom out a second and just really look at where we could go. And ultimately, there's no doubt on my mind that if Solana does what it has to do, this thing's going to get into price discovery. And it's very likely at a, almost $900 million market cap, that it's very likely to at least 5x. It's to a 5x is very possible. Okay, and in that case, let's just keep modest. We break above the previous highs, let's measure. We get in right into here, right? We go to previous highs, you're up 164%. that's a great opportunity. Now, if I were be looking for a position, I would be doing this as a low leverage or low risk trade, particularly on spot or very low leverage, 2-3x maximum. I would be buying here. That's my thing. That's what I would be doing. And I would be buying right at this level. Okay, right into here. And the reason being is because that's a liquidity zone that might get hunted. After that, I would be patiently waiting for a market structure. If we get one, I will be deploying into that market structure, an inverse head and shoulders, cup and handle, Adam and Eve structure with a Class A bullish divergence. That's what I would be looking for around this level. If it doesn't happen, at least you have your entry right here. It might be a smaller one than you wished, but who cares? At least you got an entry. The reality is this was your entry, okay? And this is what we've been covering here on the channel is the best entries, all into this yellow box. Now you have to accept that you might be getting second best of entries. I don't think that we're going to come down here. Again, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But the way the market is positioned at the current moment, the likelihood of coming back down to here, if it does, I'll be honest, guys, it's likely to fall right through the imbalance below. A retest of this horizontal is quite bearish. In fact, not a good look at all. Okay, so we got to hope, smoke those fat bowls of hopium that ultimately, Solana, the general marketplace, Bitcoin, Ethereum, the leading heavyweights of this market, take these projects to much higher levels. All right, guys, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.